Do you have pain brain?
What happened to our video? I didn't before, but maybe I do now. Technical glitch there at the beginning. Guys, great seeing you. We are Dr. Steve and Dr. Tim, the Ouch Doctors. And before we get into our show for today, we want to remind you that we are not your doctors and that this show does not replace medical advice. So if you have a condition for which you would like to receive care and guidance, make sure that you see a healthcare professional of your own. We don't claim responsibility for your health, but we do hope to give you some wisdom and advice that you can bring to your doctor and use to be more effective in being a partner in your own care. Also, we would love to have you join us on YouTube. So please, if you're not yet there, pop over to YouTube and click the little red button on one of our videos and become a subscriber. You can know about all our upcoming shows. And finally, we love feedback. So if there's anything that you would like to share, want to come on and say hi, by all means, come on over and say hi, and we'll respond either while we're here live or when we go back and watch this thing after the fact. So thanks so much, and it's great to be here. Dr. Tim, hey.
Hey, Dr. Steve, how are you? I've got pain brain too, just after that little snafu, but that's normal. We must have flunked out of AV club in high school.
Maybe. I know. Yeah. I didn't even go to AV club. That was the big problem. We thought those guys were losers, but now we're thinking maybe they had it right.
They had it going on. They all invested in Microsoft, and they're worth $1 billion right now.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Well, today we're going to talk about pain brain, and that's a cool topic because most people say, "What? Pain brain?" Do you want to do a little definition there, Dr. Tim?
Well, I'd say that pain brain is a hidden cause of chronic pain, hidden cause because most people don't have any idea what it is. But science tells us that pain brain can happen if people have chronic pain, and the pathways, the brain and its many pathways get used to that chronic pain. And then even when the original cause, let's say it was a car accident or something, even after that car accident is long healed, the pain remains. And it actually still gets worse because the more that you feel like you have this chronic pain, the more you reinforce the brain and its pathways, and the more chronic pain that you have. So it's imperative that everybody that has chronic pain should evaluate for themselves with their healthcare providers or with the Ouch Doctors, preferably, and find out if they have this pain brain.
So what you're saying is it's kind of like a vicious cycle.
Totally a vicious cycle. It's worse and worse and worse unless there's been interventions and experts that can go in and easily diagnose pain brain, start to do techniques, which let me say right now, that doesn't involve any medication from our standpoint or any additional medication or surgery or anything like that. There's a series of well thought out, very effective and documented remedies for pain brain, and to work with the neuroplasticity, the inborn healing ability of our bodies to get better.
And our brains. And so, just to define neuroplasticity, I love the word, and a lot of people haven't heard it yet. And yet it's such a vital word, certainly in the world that we work in and in the water we swim in. Neuroplasticity. Neuro is the nervous system, the brain and the nervous system. And plasticity meaning, as just like the word plastic, meaning flexibility, malleability, changeability. Right. Our brains can change. And isn't it interesting that, we grew up believing that our brains are the same for life. We went to chiropractic school, people who went to medical school learned that you've got the same number of nerve cells in your brain from the moment you're born to the moment you die, and they all get lined up a certain way, and that's just the way it is.
Right. I mean, Dr. Steve, we both went to our professional training in the 80s. Yep. And that was the message that we got. The brain cells that you're born with are the brain cells that you die with. I don't know why we didn't get that science at that particular stage, but only since then have we realized that the opposite is true, that our brains constantly change and heal and adapt. And that's what we're talking about, the science of neuroplasticity. Now, I think it's important to say that the brain can change for the positive or the negative. We want to make sure that we're on the positive end of it, because even if you're unaware of this neuroplasticity and you have chronic pain, like I said, it's going to get worse and worse and worse the more time that goes on. The more you experience chronic pain and don't address the neuroplastic dimension of healing, then it's going to get worse, worse, and worse. So it's imperative that people realize this term, understand it, and start to take proactive ways to remove it, to positively heal with neuroplasticity.
You know, one of the metaphors that I always find really useful is the metaphor of a path through a meadow. It's like if you're walking through a meadow and you keep walking the same way every single day, eventually there's a path there. And when there's a path there, that's where you're probably going to just continue to go that same way because it's the most obvious way to go. And in the same way, if you are experiencing, let's say, worry, anxiety, physical pain, whatever it happens to be, there are pathways, just like those pathways through the meadow in your brain. And as soon as you experience a particular stimulus, it automatically puts you on that path. And you just willfully, willingly, habitually walk the same path. And it just gets deeper and deeper and more ingrained. When in fact, we have the capacity through neuroplasticity, through certain exercises, to choose to take a different path. This is the work I've done with anxiety. It's the work we're now doing in the area of chronic pain is when you feel that pain, what's happening in your brain? What thoughts are you having? What emotions are you having? What kind of tension are you creating? It's become so clear that at this point, what we call neurogenic pain or psychogenic pain, pain that is being triggered by or initiated by the brain being so used to those pathways that it's going to follow those pathways, even if nothing put you there in the first place. It's just something that we become used to.
Right, and what we know from working with clients one-on-one in neuroplasticity is that there's three types of stressors that make neuroplastic pain even worse. Trauma or strong emotions from the past is one. Mm-hmm. Having an increased amount of stress in the present, or anxiety about the future. So the past, the present, and the future can all combine to actually etch these pathways and make chronic pain even more chronic. And go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I was going to say last week or a couple of weeks ago when we had Dr. Hanscom on, who's one of the fathers of this area of study, said that anxiety and chronic pain are essentially one and the same.
Same thing.
Yeah, that they're different sides of the same coin. But anxiety causes us to have pain, and then of course our pain causes us to have anxiety. Oh, I better not do that. I better not feel that. I better not let myself take that approach. And so this is something I was thinking about this morning. We as human beings become very addicted to comfort. We want to be comfortable, and if we're uncomfortable, we take actions that try to make us comfortable. But comfort is not the same thing as healing, right? So in many cases, the thing that we do to try to be quote unquote comfortable is actually the thing that sustains our discomfort. It's kind of counterintuitive. You could see that in the context of, let's say, an alcoholic. An alcoholic feels anxiety about being sober, and so they drink. But the drinking, which is temporarily putting aside the discomfort of being sober, ends up sustaining this kind of ongoing neurological pattern, right?
And then you feel worse and worse about the drinking, and so that's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, you drink in order to feel better about how bad you feel about yourself because you drink. Right. And this is what people do about drugs. This is how we take drugs for our pain without realizing that the drugs that we're taking to try to comfort ourselves out of the pain are actually further sustaining the pathways that create the pain in the first place. And I had a perfect metaphor for this because how for a long time I was taking cold showers.
Yes.
I was, using the Wim Hof method. And what I found was a couple things. One was it really helped me overcome any kind of anxiety or any kind of emotional pressure because, you have to develop a kind of like bravado to be able to deal with that experience. But it makes you better at everything else. So you're putting yourself willfully in an uncomfortable situation as opposed to looking for comfort. You're making yourself uncomfortable, which then creates more comfort in the long run. Today I took a shower and I didn't do the cold water, and I got out of the shower and it was chilly in my house. So instead of having like 1 or 2 minutes of discomfort followed by feeling perfectly cozy for the rest of the day, I felt comfortable and cozy for that 1 or 2 minutes in the shower, and then I got out and I was chilly for the next 20 minutes. right? So we've got to choose our battles. We've got to decide, okay, if I want to use the science of neuroplasticity, if I want to change my brain, then I've got to willfully choose not to just do the things that give me comfort, but to take on the exercises that create a real transformation, that really change my brain.
Right.
And then I can get out of pain.
A term that I used in my second book, Feet, Fork, and Fun, which is kind of like the chemical, physical, and emotional health, and I just called it Feet, Fork, and Fun. And it's a Swedish term, and it's kind of a silly term. It's called fartlek. Dr. Steve, have you ever heard of fartlek?
No.
Fartlek is a Swedish word, and we used to joke about this in high school because we were cross country and track runners. So the word fartlek is a way we used to train by speeding up, slowing down, going intermediate, maybe sprinting up a short hill or sprinting for 15 minutes, and just constantly changing the load on our body. And we were using that to get better at running and training. But in my book, Feet, Fork, and Fun, I make the point, or I make the case, or I set the table that we should live our life with fartlek, constantly change things and not get, it kind of dovetails with what you're saying about comfort, is to not seek out being comfortable, but to constantly stimulate and challenge yourself, because overall, you as an organism, or we as a human being, actually become stronger as a result, much like we did in cross country and track when we were in high school. So fartlek.
Fartlek it is. Yeah, that's great. I mean, you and I both know, because we've treated a lot of people with problems like fibromyalgia, people who are home. They become kind of homebodies. Their lives get smaller and smaller and smaller because they're looking to stay in a comfort zone. And the comfort zone keeps getting smaller because they're doing nothing to expand their comfort zone.
Right.
And so what we do is we say, we want to give you exercises to expand your comfort zone, which means you're going to be going into some uncomfortable places, but we'd rather you go into those uncomfortable places under supervision, under control, with the right attitude, so that you can start to gradually make your life bigger and bigger and bigger.
Exactly. And if I could, I think I just have a list right up here on my desktop about other conditions that are very neuroplastic, so very commonly associated with chronic pain of the neuroplastic style.
Okay.
Arthritis. You mentioned fibromyalgia,
Yep.
irritable bowel syndrome, chronic low back pain, neck, mid back pain, any kind of back pain, whiplash, old car accidents, headaches, migraines, chronic pelvic pain due to endometriosis even, persistent pain after surgery is another one, as well as chronic fatigue syndrome. So, and many others. Any type of chronic pain is going to re-etch and over-etch, kind of re-etch the pathways in the brain chronic pain vicious cycle. So any chronic pain can benefit somewhat, if not entirely, from neuroplastic treatment.
We recently encountered a woman in Australia who does work in the area of tinnitus, which is ringing in the ears, and she's an expert. She's a world expert in that area, and she's doing exactly what we're doing. She is teaching people how to stimulate neuroplasticity through focus exercises. A lot of what we do, mindfulness exercises and things where you experience a stimulus, and instead of shrinking from it or running from it, you learn how to sit with it, learn how to be with it, learn how to allow your focus to move toward it and away from it in a very different way. So your nervous system develops a new habit around that stimulus.
Right. So the takeaway is no comfort.
The takeaway is very little comfort. It's, comfort is comes of its own accord, but when we go out seeking it, and that's really the nature of, I mean, this is kind of a philosophical issue, right? When you really get down to it, who are we as a society? What are we all about? And we become more and more and more about comfort. We're more and more about, let's solve this uncomfortable feeling I'm having right now. I'm lonely. Let me go online and, talk to lots of people. I'm bored. Let me go play a game or watch TV. I'm in pain. Let me take a pill to make the pain go away. We're constantly trying to push away the actual experience we're having. And that would be lovely if it worked, but it doesn't work.
No.
What works is, I'm feeling this feeling. Let me learn how to be with it, how to embrace it, how to develop the mental process that allows me to include this in my experience so that it no longer is something that I'm running from.
Right. In a word, it's awareness. It's awareness of the moment that we're in.
I would say it's awareness and equanimity, or non-judgmental awareness. I'm
Right.
aware of it, but I'm not fighting it. I'm just being with it. And
Right.
this is something that none of us, I don't think, none of us can do this. I mean, ultimately, we do it by ourselves. Ultimately, it's a game that we've got to play with ourselves. But none of us can just automatically know how to do it by ourselves, or can consistently do it without guidance, without coaches, without mentors. That's why we do what we do as pain coaches,
Right.
because it's helpful to have somebody else be able to reflect whether or not you're actually in a state of mindfulness, a state of non-judgmental awareness, or are you collapsing into this thing and running away from it and trying to find comfort.
Right. I mean, there's been many cases in the past few decades of people reading, like a Dr. John Sarno, who's the father of this,
Yeah.
of mind-body medicine, reading his book, and people were spontaneously cured.
Yeah.
I don't really find that happening as much, though. I do remember a woman client that really just overnight, she got it, she
Yeah.
bought in, she knew that this was the cause, and she never had any trouble again. But that's the exception rather than the rule. More often than not, it's going to take a process of focus. It's not going to be everything you do in your life, but it does take a commitment and a focus over a certain amount of time. Like as you know, Dr. Steve, our course of care is 2 months, but sometimes it takes more, sometimes it takes less. It depends, but for everybody. But it does take some time, and does take some focus, and does take some energy on the part of the client.
And what I love about that also, Dr. Tim, is that not only is the benefit of that process the elimination of pain or the significant reduction of pain, but the benefit is an increase in consciousness, an increase in tolerance, a greater degree of compassion for others. Is like something that happens when you expand your brain. When somebody says to you, yeah, we know you're in pain. We know that, it's become, your world has shrunken around it. And all you're doing is trying to get a little comfort, and then you're back to it. And you get a little more comfort and you're back to it. What about if we reverse the whole thing and say, let's forget about comfort and let's start to have you explore how your brain works and the extent to which it can change. And now you take that on, and lo and behold, not only do the pains start to take on less significance and less severity, but then all of a sudden your life gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you start to see who you are and what your power is in the world and what your opportunities are in the world. And that's what I love about this work, because I didn't start out, well, I did start out working with pain as a chiropractor, but in our mindset work, I started out doing this to help people be successful in their business.
And you're also doing a lot with anxiety, though, too, and you still do.
Yeah. So happiness, success, all of these things come. It's like what Leo Buscaglia said: "Love is letting go of fear." It's the same idea. Success, joy, happiness is letting go of anxiety and pain. And if we can show you how to let it go, not just how to cover it up, but how to really let it go, your world becomes so much brighter, and so much more of a contribution to others.
Right. Right. Beautifully said, Dr. Steve.
Well, thank you. So this is exciting stuff. I hope that, and I see here there are a couple of comments. Let's see if who's here with us. Dowd Econ. All right, I don't believe we've met before, but hello and thanks for stopping by. Dowd, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. And he says informative discussion. I think so. I think that this is something that we all need to be informed about, right? We're so used to looking at pain through the same lens, because that's the conventional medical lens. I've got something, I don't want it, let me make it go away. Oh, that didn't work, let me try something else to make it go away. That didn't work either. Let me get some surgery and cut it out. I'm still in pain. Right. No, there's something here, right? There's something here that's so much bigger. Right. If you turn that corner, if you just shift your perspective.
Right. And I'm reminded of when I was a kid. I grew up on a farm in Rhode Island. And one of my things between my chores was to go out and shoot baskets. The problem was I didn't have a paved area to practice dribbling the basketball, because it was all gravel. So as soon as you tried to dribble a basketball, it would shoot left or right or up and down. So I never learned to dribble. So, but I could shoot the lights out. I could down them from distance. So then later in junior high, when I went to play basketball with my friends, all I could do was shoot or pass. I had no game when it came to dribbling, even on on a hard court. I had neuroplastically trained myself to shoot baskets, but to not dribble. So I had a bad game of basketball and still do. But I had burnt that into my nervous system because I spent hours out there playing. And at the age of 60, if I was to play basketball today, it'd be the same problem because those are strong connections. That's how plastic and how movable and how learnable that the nervous system is. And it does that so we can survive as a species. And we can harness that for a more positive reason with people with chronic pain. They can reverse that chronic pain without any drugs or surgery. And that's the beauty of the science of neuroplasticity.
That's a great metaphor. That story just shows you how the brain works, right? You practice one aspect of this thing and you get good at it. The part you weren't practicing, you weren't getting good at. People in chronic pain have practiced being in chronic pain.
Exactly.
And they're very good at
pain brain. That's what pain brain is.
Right. So what if you were to experience a stimulus and learn how to change your perception of that stimulus? And you did that with the same kind of consistency that you did with learning to shoot a basket. Every time you feel the stimulus, you question the interpretation, you create a new interpretation. Maybe you get mindful, maybe you quiet your mind and go into a quieter place inside, and you do something different. And then over the course of many repetitions, you suddenly turn around and say, wow, this thing happened and it didn't take me down that same path anymore.
Right.
Powerful stuff.
Fascinating.
So that's right.
Towards the end here, I know you have a hard stop. You're going you're doing a lot of teaching this afternoon, so we need to have to let you go for that.
Yeah, it's been a fun day. I actually accidentally ended up on a radio show today. Apparently I booked it, but I didn't remember booking it. But it was a great interview with Ben Fuchs. You guys should check that one out. I don't know how to find it, but if you find it, let me know. And that was really a lot of fun. And you know what? This stuff is so cool, Dr. Tim, this concept of pain brain and neuroplasticity and not chasing comfort, but rather chasing mastery, becoming masters of our own mind. Yep. What an opportunity.
And here's an opportunity too. So what if people out there want to find out if they have pain brain and figure out if that's going to work for them? What should they do, Dr. Steve?
Well, you want to go ahead and take a gander at our new website, which is painstoppable.com. We'll have a little video up top there. We'll have an opportunity for you to book a free 20-minute consultation or discovery call with us, where we'll get to know a little bit about your issues and find out where you've gotten stuck and see if we think we can help you. And of course, if we think we can, we'll tell you. And if we don't think we can, we'll tell you that too. Right. But at the same time, what we'll do is we'll introduce you to this concept and help you bridge the gap so you understand how this concept applies to you. And if this sounds like something of value to you and you'd like to work with us as your coaches, we'd be more than honored to do that. Or if you'd like to get a hold of some of our other self-study programs, we'll share with you how to do that as well. But we'd love to have you at least visit that site, make an appointment, spend 20 minutes with us and see if this might make sense as the next step on your pain journey.
Right, exactly. And beautifully said. And we're easy and breezy to work with, and no muss, no fuss. Just get on the phone, find out if you have pain brain, and if you do, let's see if we can help you.
And if we can, then the way we do it is we say, train your brain,
lose your pain.
We'll see you guys soon. Take care.